boys and girls, it's Mrs. Lane here, and today we are talking about box plots. We've spent a few days discussing histograms and also dot plots, but today we're going to work on box plots. And let's go ahead and look at the question right up here. It says, Michelle looks at the text messaging data and wants to describe the spread of numbers above and below the median. So we've got all of these data points. And we know that the 0 is going to represent the smallest number. The word we give for that is the minimum. And the 100 represents the largest number. And the word we give for that is maximum. So we have a minimum and a maximum. And it says, describe the spread of the data above and below the median. So we're going to understand box plots, we're going to have to learn a few vocabulary words. And so let's go ahead and start down here with the model it. It says you can find the median, and we know that median means middle number. Then find the upper and lower quartile. Now those are new vocabulary words. So let's see what they mean. The lower quartile is the middle number between the minimum and the median. Now that, we're going to underline that. It's a little wordy, but I'm going to explain to you what it means. It's pretty simple. So you know that the 0 represents the minimum. You have a 20 over here, which is your what? Yes, it's your median. Now the lower quartile is the middle number between the 20 and the 0. Right there. It's like your median between your median and your minimum. Okay. Now let's see if we can understand the upper quartile. The upper quartile is the middle number between the median and the maximum. So we've got our median marked here at 20, and we have our maximum of 100. And the upper quartile is going to be that middle number in between. So right here. Okay. So these 5 numbers represent what we call a box plot. So a box plot is a 5-number summary. So if you have a median, how do you think of that median? Do you think it's 100%? No. Do you think it's at 15%? No. The median is in the middle, so the median would represent 50%. So you can write that there. Now, if you're going to find the lower quartile, you're going to find the middle number between 50% and 0. So what percentage would this lower quartile represent? It's the middle number between the minimum and the median. It's what's in the middle. So what's between 0 and 50? 25%. We can do the same thing up here with the upper quartile. We have 50% here, and we have the maximum up here. What is going to be the middle percentage between 50% and 100%? Right, 75%. So the 5 numbers that represent a box plot are going to be your minimum and your maximum and your median. Those 3 we've already talked about. We know those. That's nothing new. The only thing new we're adding is the middle number between the minimum and the median, which is your lower quartile, and your middle number between the median and the maximum, which is your upper quartile. Excuse me. So if you look down here, they've got that all marked out for us. And in fact, they've drawn a box here, and we can do the same thing on ours, but they have drawn a box between the lower quartile and the upper quartile. Come back up here and let's do the same thing. So our lower quartile is at 10, our upper quartile is at 50, and just make a box there. Now, when you make that box between 75% and 25%, what does that box represent? If you take 75 and you minus 25, you're going to get 50. So between the upper quartile and the lower quartile is 50% of your data information. So if you go down here to the bottom, And it says another number, the interquartile range, or IQR, is the difference between the upper quartile and the lower quartile. And we just found that right there in that box. So let's underline it so we don't forget it. IQR is the difference between the upper quartile and the lower quartile. And it measures the spread of the middle 50% of the data. Okay, let's move on to page 299 or 289, depending on which book you're in. Okay, boys and girls, let's take a look at number 8. Number 8 asks us, what is the median of this data set? What does this number mean? Well, that is not a difficult question. We can go back and look. What's the median? We know the median is 20. What does 20 represent? 20 represents the middle number. So let's write that down. The median is 20. It represents the middle number. All righty. Now make sure you have that written down as well. And we're going to move on to number 9. Is there a wider spread above or below the median? Explain. So if we go back and look at this information, we know our median is right here. And it wants to know, is there a wider spread above, meaning this way, or is there a wider spread below the median? Now, it's pretty obvious to me that above the median, there is a spread of 80 because we're going from 20 to 100. Below the median, there's only a spread of 20 because we are going from 20 to 0. So it's pretty obvious to me that there's a wider spread above the median. Let's write that down. There is a wider spread and I'm even going to put it in parentheses, 80 above the median. Okay. Below the median, the spread is 20. All right, moving on. Explain what the length of the rectangular box represents. And we've already discussed that, but I'll show you one more time. So we've got this rectangular box right here, all right? And it's the endpoint up here is the upper quartile at 75%. The endpoint down here is the lower quartile at 25%. So this box represents the middle what? I hope you said the middle 50%. So let's write, it represents it represents the middle 50% of the data. All right, moving on to number 11. Explain what the lines extending from the ends of the box represent. Okay, so if you look at our box, okay, we know this is, I'm going to even shade it in. We know that is the middle 50%. So the line to the right is going to represent the upper what? If this is 50, and we've got lines going this way and lines going this way, it's representing from 75% to 100. So we know the line to the right represents the top 25%, and the line to the left represents the bottom 25%. The line to the right represents the top 25%. The line to the left represents the bottom 25%. Make sense to everyone? All right, moving on. Question number 12. What is the IQR of the data set? Is it affected by an outlier? Okay, if you go back, remember that the IQR is the difference between the upper and lower quartile. So here's our IQR. It's the difference between the upper of 50 and the lower of 25%. So we can say the IQR is 50 minus 10, which is 40. So our IQR equals 40. And this means the middle 50% of the data is spread over a range of 40. You don't really have to write that down, but I want you to understand that the middle 50% is spread over a range of 40, and it is not affected by an outlier. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please go ahead and give try it a try on your own. Take a look at that and then go to your PPS pages. Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.